Hello, I'm Steve Main with Fitness for Five, here again with Dr. Nario of Biointegrative Health Clinic. Hello, doctor.
Hi, good afternoon, Steve. Thank you for inviting me again.
Okay, so let's talk about another drip today. It's a bicarb drip. So tell me about that.
So the bicarbonate drip, as we call it, is something that's related to the pH of the body. So let's to define terms and make it understandable for everybody. Let's define blood pH first. So blood pH is a scale of being acidic and alkaline or basic. And the scale runs from 0 to 14, and it measures how acidic and alkaline we are. So for example, pure water that we drink is in the pH of 7. And we always hear the word pH. And with a low pH, we always think about, wow, well, how can somebody be acidic? It's because of the hydrogen ions in that specific solution. And if you have a higher pH, that's what we call alkaline. And when you have higher pH, meaning you have less of this hydrogen ions in your system, and thus you are called in the basic or alkaline state. So changes in the blood pH in our system actually is a signal, especially if we become more acidic, of a medical issue, meaning we don't want to be in the acidic phase because there's something wrong with the system. And we always want to be in balance or maybe more on the alkaline side of everything to know or assess that somebody is in a healthy state.
Okay, so you talked about pH, and that being alkaline or acidic contributes to that pH number. So tell me about, what's alkaline, what's acidic?
Yes, that's a good question, Steve. pH in the blood vessels or in the arteries or in our blood should be ideally in the 735 to 745 range. And this is an assessment that if you have that range, you can assess this through your urine or through even litmus paper testing, that you are in a state that the metabolic processes of the body and all the systems that comes into play that are functioning are all working the right way. Alkaline is going over the range that I mentioned, which is 735 to 745. Higher than that is alkaline. Anything below that is actually acidic. And sources of acid in our system is carbon dioxide. So remember when we exercise a lot, we would feel muscle aches, and we call that always as lactic acid that accumulates in our system, and we remove that through proper breathing. So that's one example of how acidity occurs in our system. And kidneys functions well in relation to negating that acid accumulation in our system by removing these acids through your urine and also by making what we call bicarbonate to actually neutralize the acid that's being formed in our blood.
Okay, so who's prone to be acidic?
Good question. That's one of the prime reasons why we use the bicarbonate drip. Number one, let me give you a good example. We have lots of athletes here, people who does strenuous activities. And you would feel this. I'm sure you're an athlete as well, that you have like muscle aches, muscle cramps after a good workout. That's why there's lingering pain, there's lingering aches after a good workout because of the accumulation of lactic acid. Another one would be intake of certain substances, such as medicines, such as aspirin, or even when you intake alcohol, it produces more acid in your system. Thus, again, not being good for the system. When you have an infection, for example, you're sick with the flu, you have a bug. Again, it aggravates the acidity of your body. And another one would be, I'm sure you heard of keto diet. So the keto diet, this involves a lot of meat. When you eat animal-based sources, it's harder to digest, and the digestion of this would be into ketone bodies, meaning it's another additional acid load for the system. And of course, severe obesity as another example is because, of course, you're not exercising, you're more in acidic state that the circulation cannot remove this acidity in your system. But also in the state of severe obesity, there's underlying conditions such as diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension can also contribute to this specific picture.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we want to be more alkaline. So what can do that? I know I drink alkaline water, but
Right.
what how do we do that? How, and you know, what are the benefits?
Right. Well, when I explained to you about alkalinity and acidity, there's really more complex measures on how we become such. And this is related to respiratory alkaloses, respiratory acidoses, and even metabolic. That I'm not going to discuss in this specific segment, but that's really another good topic to talk about. But when you talk about how can we reach alkalinity, number one would be consumption of bicarbonate. And you mentioned about, yeah, alkaline water. That's one way. And also even making bicarbonate drinks, such as you get your Arm & Hammer and you mix baking soda in a glass and you chug it down. And also antacids. So people who has gastric ulcers, it neutralizes the acidity of the stomach so that they would be relieved of their ulcer pain. Another one would be when you eat high amounts of vegetables and plant-based sources of food, such as fruits, vegetables. That's why vegans or vegetarians has a higher chance of being more alkaline than meat eaters, just because of, as I mentioned to you a while ago, and how ketones gets formed from meat. And another one would be, of course, as I mentioned, or you also mentioned that the bicarbonate drip or IV therapy that you can get, maybe not here, but also in other places.
Okay, so I've never done a bicarbonate or a bicarb drip. So how does it work and what's the benefit of this particular treatment?
So with the bicarbonate drip, as I mentioned to you a while ago, it gives you 100% alkalinity after the treatment. The thing here is, when you mentioned about alkaline water, you have to drink gallons and tons of water to alkalinize your body. Our gut does not have that capacity to absorb all that water. There's only so much that the gut can absorb. If you go through the veins and deliver the solution through there, then there's nothing that's going to go to waste. And every acid in your system just gets neutralized. And again, it really depends on the severity of the acidity of the patient. That's why the percent on how much alkaline can you get really depends on the situation. But the benefits of the bicarbonate drip is, number one, it's also given with hydration fluid. At the same time, with electrolytes, if you're deficient in electrolytes, especially for the athletes, the repletion also occurs with that. And also inside the solution would be the actual bicarbonate. It neutralizes the acidity, and as I mentioned a while ago, the kidneys are also creating your natural bicarbonate. With this being given to a patient, it helps this specific activity to neutralize acidity in totality of your system.
Wow, okay. Another very interesting treatment done at Biointegrative Health Center. I'm Steve with Fitness for Five. That's Dr. Nario. You can look them up online. So thank you, doctor.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite again.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.